What's crazy about the success of the new FNATIC lineup with Dennis replacing the longtime in-game leader of the team, Pronax, is that their run of winning the first four tournaments they've played in, it feels like it's really made us actually kind of take greatness for granted, because already this is clearly one of the best CSGO teams we've ever seen. It's already a team that's accomplished something historical, because they won the first four tournaments they've played in, yet three of those were big international tournaments, and the other one was still a tournament that had a couple of top EU teams in, admittedly, if not like the best team in the world, etc. Like no Envy, no Virtus Pro, no Navi, but still had TSM and NIP. Now, what's significant is winning four tournaments in a row like that is something the old FNATIC team with Pronax never accomplished. They won three tournaments in a row a couple of times. In history of CSGO, to win four big tournaments like this, or four tournaments of have like international flavor to them in a row, is very rare. NIP did it once. They managed to win actually 7 tournaments in a row. Only 6 if you count like international quality tournaments, because one of those is a Swedish tournament. So they did it once. You're probably thinking now, right? NIP, this great team won all tournaments. They probably did it a few more times, right? No, that's it. They did it once when they won 7 in a row, 6 in a row, however when you count it. That's it. They never had a streak themselves that was longer than 3 tournaments in a row. Because even them, the great NIP that went from 2012 through late 2013 winning a lot, then in 2014 won some titles, they were still always getting upset every few tournaments. So they never did more than 3 in a row. So FNATIC already is one of the greatest teams in the history of this fucking game. As if people are still keep messaging me like that. I have to like mute this shit, right? I'm not starting the fucking video again. Fuck that. So, Envious. They had the 2 Envious lineups, which accomplished a lot, and both won majors. The first one, they only won a couple of tournaments in a row, because obviously they could never beat FNATIC back then. The second Envious one, the one that drew Andriak, Cluj-Napoca, they managed 3 tournaments in a row, but even then, that actually included IEM Gamescom, which was an exhibition tournament, which had a lesser field, and which the fans essentially voted for which map and what which you played, and the teams decided who played what opponent. So that's not the same as winning a big tournament, and again, it's still not as good as winning 4 tournaments in a row. So already this FNATIC lineup with Dennis has accomplished something very special. The whole point of making this video is I want to acknowledge how incredible it is, even though there are caveats to it that make it interesting, because for such a level of dominance, one of the greatest runs in history of CSGO already, it does have some nuances to it that are different from some of the other dominant teams in history. Now, over this 4 tournament span, admittedly the prize purses have gone up and up and up in CSGO, but consider this, over these 4 tournaments, their success means that this team has won $316,000 with just this lineup in just those 4 tournaments. Now, to put that in context, they won $316,000. Na'Vi, as a 5-man team, only won $380-something thousand in all of 2015. So you can already see, yes, prize purses are going up, but this FNATIC team is already something special, and we have to acknowledge that. Now then, it's clearly, despite the number of tournaments won, not as dominant as the FNATIC we remember of old. I mean, the FNATIC I always think was the best was actually the FNATIC of late 2014, the one which sadly didn't win the major because it had that round of 8 match, and I think a mixture of the Flusher cheating accusations, which did seem to limit his play and make him not as good, then the whole boost scenario and the forfeit. Unfortunately, that kind of ruined the Kappa, which would have been, no, fuck you Twitch chat, which would have been if they'd capped off the run of winning 3 tournaments by winning the 4th one and it being the major, and then whatever happened after that, who cares? But that would have been the fitting end to what was an obvious, very dominant dynasty, because they won. Okay, admittedly, they'd had tournaments before that they'd played with that lineup, but once they went into God mode, started at FACEIT Stage 3, and they then won ESWC right after that, and then right after that, they won Fragbite Masters 3. So they won these 3 tournaments in a row, and at those 3 tournaments in a row, they were incredibly dominant. At FACEIT Stage 2, they went 9-1 in maps and won every single series. At ESWC, they went 10-1 in maps and won every single series. Admittedly, there was one group stage game to Navi that they lost. And also, some of that 10-1 at ESWC was against lesser teams, because ESWC had an extremely international field. At Fragbite Masters 3, they went 7-1, won every single series. So over those 3 tournaments, they won 26 out of 29 maps they've played. 89% win rate, which is incredible. And they lost 0 series, because obviously we don't count our best of 1 in the group stage as a series. So we're talking about best of 3, best of 5 series. Now, looking at the lineup of now, the team that's won the 4 tournaments, what they've managed to accomplish goes like this. FACEIT Stage 3 was their first tournament. They went 6-2 there, won all their series. So they'd already lost 2 maps, which it took the other FNATIC 3 tournaments to lose well, it took them 2 tournaments to lose to maps technically, but they only lost 3 over 3 tournaments. Fragment Masters 3, they went 7-4 in maps, and they lost 1 series to NIP. At so remember, in one tournament, Fragment Masters, they lost more maps than the late 2014 dominant FNATIC had lost in a 3 tournament span of their 3 tournament win in a row. ESEA Pro League, they went 9-4 in maps, and they lost the series to Envious, obviously. And then more recently, last week, Star Ladder Season 14, they went 10-5 in maps, and they lost a series again to Envious. So over that 4 tournament span, they played a lot more maps. They played 47 maps, and they only won 32 out of the 47, which is still a good win rate. It's still 68%. It's still very solid. You're still going to be an extremely good team if you do that, but it's not the same level of dominance. Likewise, they lost 3 best of 3 series, whereas obviously in the past, in that span I was talking about when I consider them the most dominant in 2014, they never lost any series then. They lost 3 maps then, whereas this time they lost 15 maps, admittedly over more maps played. Over about, let me see, what would it be? 29. So, okay. Over something like, what would it be? Like 7, 8. So, something like 18 more maps. But here's what's interesting. So as incredible as the historical accomplishment of winning the 4 tournaments is, the reason why it doesn't feel as incredible and as dominant is because of the fashion it's done in. It's not just enough to look at trophies alone. You've got to ask how they were won, in what fashion, what the style of play was. So let's go through it. At Face It Stage 3, this was pretty convincing, actually, because they smashed the new Luminosity lineup 16-0. Brilliant, Dust 2. Then, once they got to the playoffs, they beat NIP by a very big margin as well. Then they got to the playoffs. They met the mighty Virtus Pro, champions of IM Dubai. They play ESL Invitational Dubai, rather. They beat them in a very solid 2-1 series that showed off their skills. In the final, they had some close moments against Luminosity, but the one that's very solid 2-1. So this one, the Face It Stage 3 one, I think is a pretty solid win. I don't think there was too many weaknesses there. But then you go to Fragment Masters, and right away, upper bracket final, they're playing NIP, a team that's supposed to be way below their level, and they lose, actually. They lose 2-1 in the series. Then they go into the lower bracket. They even lose a map to SK Gaming, who isn't even considered a top 10 team. Then in the final, they lose another map to NIP. They do manage to edge out the series in this crazy Mirage game with 4 spies, but that was a very unconvincing win against lesser competition, but obviously they got the trophy in the end. They just eked that one out. So you're already starting to think, some cracks starting to show here. Then you go to ESL ESEA Pro League Season 2. In the group stage, they lose reasonably convincingly, actually, to Envious, including on Inferno, a map that's supposed to be extremely strong for both teams, but Envious actually kind of schools them on that map. Okay, then they get into the playoffs. They barely beat TSM there in 2 close games where TSM's right there, but they don't manage to do it. And this is the TSM at the time, people saying they're back to choking again because they had dropped off from that top level they'd been at just before the major. Then they get into the final. They play this best of 5 with Na'Vi, which goes 3-2 in maps. They barely beat Na'Vi. They are so close to losing on all these maps. So again, they get another trophy. This one, I mean, in some ways, in even less convincing fashion because of the way they lost to some of the top teams and how close they were to some of the better teams. But they get that 3rd trophy. Now you come in a Star Series, the least convincing of them all, because they get ultra wrecked by Envious in the group stage, at least when they're on the CT sides. Then they barely beat TSM again. Then they barely beat Luminosity. That 3rd map is so close that almost everything had to go right towards the end for this FNATIC team to actually get the win, and they did manage to scrape it through. Admittedly, in the final, they did smash Na'Vi. They were very convincing. That final was something comparable to the dominance of 2014. But you can see every one of these 4 victories, except the first one, has these moments of weakness, or the moments where you're like, that's really not convincing, or how are they doing this, or wow, I'm surprised they went on to win the tournament after that. Because, again, they lost the 3 series, which they'd never done the dominant era. Now, the thing about the current FNATIC is they do have a different flavour to them. Like, Olaf Meister is back to his God mode status. He is the best player in the world. Guardian can contend with him for it, certainly, but Olaf Meister is extremely good again, and we've seen him in a number of tournaments now, and his performance level is really high again. Crims is back to being super consistent. This guy's the rock on which they built the dynasty before Olaf went God mode, and he's back to being very good. The guy just reads people's minds in 1v1s. He's a very consistent player. On both sides of the game, you know, he's very good. He's very good on T side, his workman-like role, but on CT side, he's still great at locking down the spots and playing with teammates in terms of team play. JW's definitely improved since Pronax left. I don't know why that is, but he started to pick it up towards the end anyway with the odd game, the odd series, but now he's really gotten it going again. He's not at like a peak era that he was in 2014, but he's good now. He's able to contribute to Olaf and to Crims and give you that three-man core to have a good performance. The other two have been the ones that have been the unconvincing ones that have sometimes let the team down to some degree, or obviously they're still winning trophies and they're champions. Flusher has been pretty underwhelming, actually. Basically, aside from the Luminosity series at this last tournament, Star Ladder, where he was very big in that series, aside from that, almost every series, all he's really been good for generally is like the odd clutch here and there, the odd kind of like CZ bullshit round. He is one of the better CZ players at the moment, but he's nowhere near the lurking Flusher of the lineup where it used to have Schneider and Devilwalk, where he used to be one of the best players in the world, or the Flusher of 2015 who was having the big majors and who has some of those huge... He's not doing that as much now. Part of it is he's the in-game leader now, and some of the roles have swapped around a little in the spots, so that has to play a part in it, but he's having his issues more. Particularly, he's been one of the guys who's got being exploited a bit on Mirage, you'll notice. Then finally, there's Dennis, the new addition. Now, what's interesting is he's essentially been almost non-existent during the first 3 titles they won, because he would pop up for the odd Deagle round, or he'd have the odd kill here and there, but he wasn't having huge games. He wasn't really taking over the game. He wasn't even really seeming to play any set role that like improved the team. It's the others that seem to have improved. Olaf and Crims go back to their level. JW's playing a bit better. But he did have this monster first map, Dust 2, against Na'Vi, and that really did put Na'Vi on the back foot, and they couldn't do anything against him, and he locked down that one spot catwalk, and he played incredibly here, almost had 30 kills. On top of that, earlier in the series against Luminosity, where he'd struggled for most of the series, he had that one crazy CZ round that really did turn some of the game around for FNATIC. They had a lot more they had to do beyond that, but that really was an important round, because they would have been fucked otherwise. So mainly it's been weird pistol rounds and then that one map against Na'Vi that has done it for Dennis. So he needs to do a lot more probably in future if they're going to keep winning, but he has been kind of very underwhelming so far. The style of FNATIC has clearly changed because, first of all, a lot more force buys. They force buy a lot of the time now, and they rely on hitting crazy shots with pistols to get them back in games sometimes, else they'll force buy into a deeper hole. They've also seemed to have more passive setups as CT. Like, it seems like they do rely on aim more. One of the core strengths that Pronax had was he was very good at reading the game, and then on CT side, being able to decide, right, we're going to stack a man over here, or have a setup that would start out a certain way on a site, probe for information, and then from information that he got, Pronax was one of the best at making decisions off that information as CT. They don't have that at all as CT at the moment. At CT, they just tend to hold their spots. People have their own autonomy to do what they want, and then they either try and kill people and make shots, or they just are at the mercy of how the terrorists attack them. And they try essentially to just play passive spots, is what a lot of aimers do in CSGO. Just play the passive spot and just out-aim the guy when he comes on the corner. It's not the same style, and that's why when they get battered by a Na'Vi in the past, or Luminosity have got very good T-sides, or Envious, in fact, all the best T-side teams at the moment, even TQM, are having good success against the FNATIC CT side for this reason, that FNATIC aren't very good at adapting. They just try and hit headshots and have individual performances to hold those spots, comparatively to what they used to do with Pronax. Now, on the other hand, though, one of the things that had started to improve over the last 3 months of the Pronax era was the T-sides had gotten a lot better and better. That's still there, but in a different way. Like, Flusher does seem to be doing a good job of calling on the T-side, of being able to make the force buys work on the T-side, and of being able to get things going so that Olaf Meister, Crims can have that big impact on T-side. And that seems to be where they're at their best at the moment, is overall the T-sides. They have to squeak by a bit on CT side. They're one of the best T-side teams at the moment. Admittedly, I would put teams like Na'Vi, possibly... maybe even put Luminosity ahead of them in terms of how they play and the style that they play. But FNATIC is being effective on T-side. Stronger than CT side for me, at least. Regardless of the number of rounds on, because we're talking about map biases here. Now, the other reason it's not convincing for them is you look at all the other teams around their level, their peer groups, and there's a lot of holes here because Envious has beaten them in both series they've played. One of them very convincingly, the other one pretty convincingly. So Envious already seems to have an advantage over them. Na'Vi has been very close to them a number of times, even though they got wrecked in this last final. Luminosity has played them close both times and looks like they're set to beat them eventually. We don't know when, though. TSM can beat them, even though they haven't, because it's always been close. So that seems like there's still some danger there, even though at the moment they're getting the better of them. And Virtus Pro hasn't been present for a while, but Virtus Pro has the matchup, where Virtus Pro, if they play the map pool right, eventually is going to beat them, is going to get wins, and at the very least can always take them to 3 maps, it feels like. So amongst everyone, when that field's all combined, and we're at a major type tournament with every one of these teams there, certainly FNATIC could lose and could not win the tournament. They're also at the moment that, it's just getting enough of everyone, except envious, that they've been able to win the tournament. And obviously, envious can't make it themselves to the final in most of these cases, so they haven't got a chance to beat FNATIC there. So it is interesting, but you can see how precarious it is for FNATIC at the moment. So they are clearly already one of the best teams ever. They've already started to make a dynasty, essentially. This is already a team which will be remembered as a historical team, even if they never win another tournament. Now, will they win more tournaments? It seems like they almost certainly will win more. But will they win more in a row? And will they win more in dominant fashion? Now, I haven't really won any in dominant fashion. It doesn't seem as though something's going to click tomorrow and make them even better. But you've got to give it up to them. You can't take this greatness for granted. They have done something incredible already. It looks like they will do special things in the future. But who knows if it really can be like this sort of a streak, because we do see some cracks there. The question is, though, can those other teams actually make the adjustments to improve and to be able to defeat FNATIC? That's the big question for everyone right now. Now, at Alpha Draft, you shouldn't be taking the greatness of fantasy esports for granted. If you want to win money, Skrilla, just like FNATIC, it doesn't matter how convincingly you win. You might be won by 1 point, might be by 100 points. You still get the trophy, you still get the money, which is the Alpha Draft equivalent of the trophy. I guess you win money as well in CSGO. You can win lots of money there. The prize pools go up incredibly there. So if you have the money to enter, or you enter the free contest and you earn some money, there's tons of contests to play. You don't even have to just play CSGO. They have tons of other games, Dota 2, Smite, League of Legends, Alpha Draft. Don't take it for granted. Skrilla.